A year ago, they announced debts of 1.35 billion euros. They then struggled to register new signings because of the financial situation. And at the start of this summer, they were told their salary cap would be negative 144 million euros. So you might have expected FC Barcelona to have had a quiet transfer window. Well, guess again, because they've spent 150 million euros on new signings. Today, we are off to the Catalan capital to find out what on earth is going on with Barcelona's finances and whether or not money really does grow on trees. What's actually been happening at Camp Nou over the last few weeks in transfer terms? The priciest arrival has been Rafinha from Leeds United, costing 58 million euros. Highly rated centre-back Jules Koundé has arrived from Sevilla for 50 million euros, while the most high-profile arrival is legendary Polish striker Robert Lewandowski, bought from Bayern Munich for 45 million euros. Add into those the free transfers of Frank Kessie and Andreas Christensen, plus with the departures of Dani Alves, Ricky Puig, and Luke de Jong, among others. The revolving doors have barely stopped moving at Barca HQ. There's just one small problem with these new arrivals. None of them have been registered for the new campaign, which begins on 13th August, thanks to the salary cap imposed by La Liga because of the huge debts. Okay, let's take this back a bit. How did they get into such a huge debt in the first place? It's fairly simple. For years they signed a multitude of players on grossly exaggerated wages and transfer fees, and then deferred the payments. Meaning, a year ago, they still had millions of euros to spend on the likes of Frankie de Jong, Felipe Coutinho, who soon left, and Arturo Vidal, who had already left at the time. These three were by no means the only ones for whom Barcelona were in this situation. While they have always been a rich club, Blaugrana were catapulted forward through their success under Pep Guardiola from 2008 to 2012, twice winning the Champions League with arguably the best club side ever assembled. Success on the pitch led to financial gain off it, giving Barcelona the freedom to offer high wages to the core of the squad. Despite domestic success over the next decade, only one further Champions League crown in 2015 meant that broadcasting revenue and commercial gain was never quite the same, but rather they managed their player budget accordingly. Barcelona kept the likes of Sergio Busquets and Gerard Piqué on huge wages, while spent heavily on bringing in the likes of Ousmane Dembele and Andre Gomez, who didn't come close to providing the success that others did. This created a vicious cycle. As success, particularly in Europe, dried up, the wage bill continued to skyrocket. Barcelona have also taken out huge loans with the likes of Goldman Sachs to refurbish the crumbling Camp Nou and the surrounding areas. Very little work has been done so far, but some payments are already overdue. Much of the liberal spending came under the presidency of Josep Maria Bartomeu. He was at the helm from 2014 until his resignation in 2020 over allegations of tax fraud over the signing of Neymar. The charges were eventually dropped, but last year he was investigated for his alleged role in a defamation campaign against some of Barca's own players. He may or may not have been involved in anything criminal, but we can be sure that he was leading the Catalans to the brink of disaster. Having to let Lionel Messi go to PSG last year because they could no longer afford his wages, despite him offering to take a substantial cut, was a disaster enough for the majority of fans at Camp Nou. But surely a club like that makes a ton of money every day. Where's all their revenue? Barcelona brings in huge amounts of money from TV rights, sponsorship, merchandising, and more, as do other so-called superclubs, many of whom also have debts to pay. But while other clubs have long-term agreements with banks and agents to pay their own money back, Barca have short-term repayments. So they face the risk of a knock at the door at any moment from blokes with metaphorical baseball bats demanding money. Loss of revenue due to the pandemic has also increased the issue, as has poor decision-making at boardroom level. But it is still difficult to grasp how exactly this could have happened to a club that made over €250 million in broadcasting alone in 2019 and makes around €700 million through commercial projects every 2 years. All this means that Barcelona have the largest turnover in La Liga, but also makes the greatest losses. La Liga themselves aren't happy about this, as their own financial fair play rules stipulate that clubs can only use a certain percentage of their income on players and coaches. So they have therefore told Barcelona to plug a negative $144 million sized hole before they can even begin registering players. Yes, but that doesn't explain why they're still able to sign all these new expensive players. Well, that's all down to the plan installed by new president Joan Laporta. Laporta, a magic money tree grower, a politician and a lawyer, was president from 2003 to 2010, overseeing a period when Barcelona went from the shadow of Real Madrid's Galacticos to Kings of Europe with that incredible Guardiola team. Having taken them so far forward, his legacy was squandered by his successors, and now he has returned to pick up the pieces. As he is a president, not an owner, Spanish clubs are owned by their members or socios, it's not possible to simply find a new investor who can pump vast sums of money into the club and kiss the debt goodbye. Laporta has therefore looked at other ways to bring in revenue or extraordinary income, as he puts it. The plan involves various economic levers, the first of which was to sell 49.9% of the company that manages their official merchandise for around 200 million euros, and the second was to sell 10% of their television rights for the next 25 years, which brought in 267 million euros. La Liga rules state that a third of this money can be used on players, which is what they used to buy Lewandowski et al. This summer. But they still need to raise much more if they are to register them and honor their contracts. The third economic lever was activated earlier this month, as they sold 24.5% of their production house, Barca Studios, to Socios.com. The same percentage again will soon be sold to GDA Luma for 100 million euros, which will be the fourth lever, the one that should finally allow them to register those they have purchased. Some are pointing blame at Laporta for gambling with the club's future. No one knows how much broadcasting rights will be worth in 2047, for example, so to have already sold a percentage of them is quite a risk. Whatever has been going on off the pitch, it can't have been an easy summer for Xavi, the man tasked with bringing on pitch success. Having taken over in November from Ronald Koeman, he seems to have got the spark back at Camp Nou, especially with some finally shrewd-looking signings such as Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. The highlight of the campaign came at the Bernabeu, winning 4-0 against Real Madrid. Soon the season fizzled out again. They were dumped out of the Europa League by Eintracht Frankfurt, and they ended up trophyless for the second time in 3 seasons, with a rebuild required but having to build a system using players that might or might not be available for the season. It can't be easy for the relatively inexperienced manager. His legend status should buy him time with the fans and the board, but that wasn't enough to save Koeman. It is all a far cry from the club that prided itself on being Més que un club, who until relatively recently refused to have sponsors on their shirts and turn out player after player for their La Masia Academy system, rarely spending big money on a signing that another club had produced. It's bad enough any club finding themselves in this situation, but it sits even worse when it's Barcelona. Pedri, Gavi, and when he's fit, Ansu Fati provide real hope that the true Barcelona is alive and well, and that Xavi has some real talent to work with. But rather than Més que un club, the quote most associated with Barcelona nowadays is that from Bayern Munich manager Julian Nagelsmann. Barcelona, the only club that has no money but buys every player they want. So what do you think of the going-ons at Barcelona? Is Laporta the right man to turn things around? Can Xavi sort them out on the pitch? Or are they still on course for disaster? Have your say in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.